So the less activism that mindlessly pushes us toward an agenda, and the more thoughtful conversation we can have about what morality looks like, the better. And hopefully today's show aids in that. But also, this is important because there are repercussions to this kind of thing. Just recently, a Florida sheriff spoke out about what you might call the school to prison pipeline, but more importantly, spoke out about how schools that are lenient on disciplinary issues with students actually can aid and abet in the bad behavior of those students out in the real world, and then people die when that kind of stuff happens. So here I want to show you the Marion County Sheriff giving a press conference about two boys, a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old, who killed 3 other young people. And apparently a fight that started in the school found itself outside of the school where these 3 kids were killed. And here's him talking about that.
And an affray at the school. Oh, that's what I call a light bulb coming on right there. Remember I just talked about minimizing and holding students accountable? Our school districts, not just here, I'm not going to point out just mine, school districts across this state and across this nation need to quit minimizing the actions of their students. Hold them accountable. That's where the failure is.
Now, you can hear in this sheriff's rhetoric, you can hear a little bit of Ron DeSantis perhaps, but more importantly, you can hear the frustration of a police officer whose job is made harder because schools will not do their job. Now, here's the argument from the left as best as I can situate it, that schools push students into the prison system, and that schools very often are responsible for creating this familiarity with the prison system in students by a couple of things. First of all, by exposing them to police presence in schools, and by having very strict zero tolerance policies. Because you do something in class and then you're punished for that thing, then that ultimately all that's doing is that it's creating this sense in which the kid becomes desperate and doesn't feel like they can do anything in life, and ultimately they must resort to murdering people. And then, of course, the idea is that when you expel a student, you make them desperate, you give them nothing to do and no way of actually getting out of whatever bad things that they may be a part of at home and whatnot. And so by expelling kids and having very strict, rigorous disciplinary policies in schools, you are disservicing kids. And of course you understand that the argument is squarely rooted in the idea of systemic racism. And so the idea goes as follows, that whenever you do these kind of things, it disproportionately affects especially black kids in poor communities. And when you treat them like delinquents, they will ultimately become delinquents. And that's why these children are dead today. So a couple things about that. Let's be really clear. Because of the breakdown of the nuclear family, and especially because in black communities, there are so few real men stepping up to the plate to be fathers. And I'm not saying this to throw stones. I'm saying this because statistically speaking, close to 80% of all black kids grow up in single-parent homes, and about 86% of those homes are led by women. So the black father is definitely an issue. And because of that, a lot of these kids are growing up without discipline at home. Therefore, they come to school. And then if you don't give them discipline there, ultimately what you have is a totally crazy classroom.
All right?
Sit down.
You go sit down.
What did you, why you told me?
You go sit down, all right?
You never
Come up to me like that? Who the f you think you are? Yeah, twitch your face. Turn around and raise your fist like that, Dr. Shu. Do it again. I'm not playing, all right?
Okay.
Come up to me and do that to me.
Now, for those of you who are listening and not watching, that was probably a 16-year-old, 15-year-old kid screaming in the face of a professor or a teacher. So very often, the only recourse that teachers have is to kick kids out of their class and to kick kids out of school because they are so unruly. Delinquent kids with no parents use school as a laboratory to test their evil. And this is the second thing, and this is the most important thing. We need to understand evil exists People on the left think that they're very Rousseauian. That, you know, Rousseau said that people are born free, but everywhere are in chains. That ultimately the only thing that really puts people in an imposition is society, and it's society's fault that these kids are growing up the way they are, rather than that they're actually making choices, and that some kids just truly are evil. The left constantly wants to create social welfare programs to get rid of evil in the heart, and then strip religious ideas and religious classes from the school system, and then wonder why kids are singing to their own DNA when they don't have morality taught to them from the earliest of ages. Evil exists, and we got to do something about it. And moreover, I would just say this, that parents, I have to tell you, if you don't figure out a way to get your kids in a private school right now, you are a negligent parent. With everything that's going on in the public school system, with how dangerous it's becoming, with how wicked it is, it is a moral imperative to figure out a way. And I've heard other Christians talk about this and say that it's actually morally egregious for Christian parents to take their kids out of the public school system. Well, because you're supposed to be salt and light to your kids, or whatever the case may be. But I am going to victim blame a little bit here. And I'm just going to say this, whether you're a white parent, a black parent, or any kind of parent, a Christian parent, a non-Christian parent. I'm just going to tell you, regardless of your social economic status, don't let the left lie to you and tell you that it's society's fault that you can't afford a private school. I'm going to tell you as a parent, it is your obligation to find a way. And if there is a will, there is a way. I feel confident enough after years of taking my kids to private school, and gladly so, that I know that there is a way that you can try to get your kids into a private school where they will be much better served if you really try and if you really put yourself in the position to do so. And that's what you got to do. Because in the meantime, schools continue to push this school to prison pipeline thing, where they think the real way to change all of that is to have a more open environment where kids can express themselves, and if they're angry, they can yell at teachers, and the teachers maybe even can yell back at them, and they'll have a good, nice yelling sesh right before they jump into science class and learn how to dissect frogs. But the way that we do this is through compassion principles, and not by actually discipline. Well, I'm reminded of something in the Bible, not that you leftists would care at all, but spoil the rod, spoil the child. When you do not implement discipline, you can continue to expect the kind of things that happened in Marion County and in other public schools all across this nation to continue to happen. And as we strip Christianity from the public school system and from our public consciousness, we can probably expect the same to happen. Because, trust me, we're not filling that chasm with just agnostic, atheistic gobbledygook. We've created a religion to fill its place, but it's just not a good one. So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.